Hey, Wednesday, November 30th, the last day of November. Tomorrow the house elves show up, or whatever you call those things. And then, let's see, your iPads, you can download the homework, the notebook, the highlighter. We'll talk about that in a moment. You need your Shadow Club book to follow along. Book report due is 2 weeks from this morning. For the homework, you'll download that one. There's, once again, 4 options. Connects to the quiz coming up on whatever day you call that, Friday. We'll have to get to like page 70 or something, but we'll get a big chunk of it done today and tomorrow too. So we get into our shadowy, clubby stuff. As we go through, once again, those character description-y things that you guys got a chance to time out before, keep marking those, and I'll give you a chance to tell me more as we find them. We did get to Shirley Temple, who we talked about in the book, and what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to show you a little video of it. Look it up on YouTube. I found where she does this thing. I don't think I get it to play on here. No. Alright, let's go. Shirley. No. That's the good shit lollipop, which is maybe we can do good shit lollipop.
On the good ship, lollipop, it's a sweet trip to a candy shop where bonbons play on the sunny beach of Peppermint Bay. Lemonade stands everywhere, cracker jack bands, deli air, and there you are, happy landing on a chocolate bar.
That's all I can take of that. She's 5 years old there, by the way. She put you all to shame. What? You're saying you were that adorable at 5 years old?
I was pretty adorable.
Alright. So that's because Rebecca and her singing and her being like little Shirley Temple is going to pop up again here coming up shortly. Let's see, where do they leave off with you guys? Page 17. At that bottom part, oh yeah, we got to. Their high school, junior high is different than ours. What grades go to their junior high?
7 through 9.
Yeah, 7, 8, and 9. What grade is Jared in?
8, 9.
Well, we've hit all 3 numbers. Well done on that one. He does say he's in the final year of junior high. Would you make it?
9.
Well done on that one. And then we have who's Jared's friend, or best friend? Cheryl. And let's see, who's Cheryl's brother?
Randall.
Excellent, Randall. And then, did we get to who Austin? No, dang it. Did we get to who Jared hates?
Austin. Lost in space.
Nice, Austin Pace or Lost in Space. And what is it that they're both really good at doing?
Running.
Well done. Hey, that's about as far as we got. Alright, so we're at the bottom of page 17. I don't know why, but it seemed that Coach Schuler always put us in the same races. We would take first and second, but when Austin and I were racing, there were no places, only winner and loser. And I was always, without exception, the loser. Once, I was the best. 1 year, Austin's father, who's a professor, took the whole family traipsing around South America for a whole year. It was in 7th grade, first year on the junior high school team. I finally got to see that finish line ribbon, to feel it pull across my chest as I crossed the line. I was hot then, the hero, popular, everything I could have wanted. And then Austin came back, like I knew he would. I remember the beginning of 8th grade, before the coach knew him. We were lined up for time trials, and just before Austin was to go, he turned to me and gave me that smile. The smile that said, "You're nothing, Jared Mercer, and I'll prove it." The coach yelled, "Go!" Austin took off and blew my 60-yard time sky high. He beat it by almost half a second, which might not seem like much, but races are lost by hundreds of seconds. From that moment on, I was a backseater again, the generic kid, living in the bigger-than-life shadow of Lost in Space. But this time, it was worse, because I had tasted what it was like to be a winner, and Austin was determined to make sure I would never taste it again. You take these things too seriously, my father would say. So he's faster than you. Big deal. I'll bet there are things you do better than he does. But there weren't. And my father just didn't understand. It wasn't just that he was faster than me. It was that I was second. And nobody on this earth could care less about runners-up. On that first morning of 9th grade, I watched Austin from the stands. He knew I was there. He had to know. I was the only one in the bleachers. He ran around and around the dirt track in his bright white running shoes that never seemed to get dirty. It looked like he was going to go until the first bell rang, but then he stopped, stepped inside the track, and went to the highest point of the oval. Which means, so that's like the highest point of the oval, meaning like this, shaped like that. He went to that top part to run straight across. I knew what he was going to do. He did it all the time. His school bag sat there at the tip of the oval track. He took his blue digital chronometer, the one the coach gave him after last year's final meet, and set it to 0. Do you guys know what a chronometer is? It does. It's a thing that measures how fast you run, otherwise known as stopwatch. It's just a fancy word for chronometer. Chrono meaning time and meter meaning to measure, so it just measures your time. Set it to 0. Then he took his running shoes and socks off and stared at an invisible spot in front of him, straight across the middle of the field, to the other tip of the oval. He took his starting position, clicked the chronometer, and took off in his bare feet. It hurt to watch his speed. He tore through the grass like a racehorse on turf. It was at the other end of the oval, much too soon. He looked at the time his chronometer had logged, then he pretended to notice me for the first time. He waved. I waved back. He stretched out his legs, went to get his shoes, then came by the bleachers. "What's up, Jared? You have a good summer?" "Pretty good. What about you?" "Great." He put his foot up on the first bench and stretched his calf muscle. "You like my running shoes? They're Aeropeds, the best running shoe made. Cost almost $200. I nodded. "Maybe if you had these shoes, you might be able to come close to giving me some competition this year, huh?" "Maybe," I said, which wasn't what I wanted to say. I won't tell you what I wanted to say. "You been working out?" "Yeah," I said. I had been. Every spare moment I had. "Good. Me too. Every day. All summer up at Junior National Running Camp. Hey, guess what?" "What?" "I might qualify for the Junior NCAA Championships." "Really?" "Uh-huh. Tough competition. But my time now is averaging a quarter of a second faster than last year's 60-yard qualifying time. So I've been trying to get even lower. My dad says if I qualify, next year he'll find me a private coach and train me for the Olympics." He smiled that I'm better than you smile at me. "So, what have you been up to?" "Me? Oh, I just went to European Runners Training Camp where you run cross-country up and down the Alps all day long with famous Olympic athletes." "Really?" I sighed. "No. Actually, I just hung around and worked at Burger King making hamburgers. Hard work, that Burger King. Builds muscles in your fingers." "I'll bet," said Austin. "You know, I was the youngest one they ever had working at that Burger King." "Yeah? Well, makes sense. I mean, who else are they going to get through the stupid flunky work but a kid, right?" I didn't say anything after that. "Well, I gotta go change," said Austin. "You coming to the first track meeting this afternoon?" "Of course." "Well, get there on time," he said, smiling that crocodile smile at me. "They're picking team captain today. I wouldn't want you to miss that." He turned and ran toward the locker room. They're going to mention crocodile smiles a couple times too. Is that a phrase you guys have ever heard?
No.
All right. If you've ever seen a crocodile, the crocodile looks like it's always smiling because the way its mouth is, it comes around and the back part of it sort of curls up. So a crocodile always looks like it has a smile on its face, but a crocodile is not a friendly creature. So a crocodile smile is when you have a smile, but you actually have like evil intentions. I crocodile smile all the time in class, oftentimes when you guys make poor choices. And I go, "Is that what you want to do? Is that what you're going to go do? That sounds like a good idea." And I smile at you and you go, "Mr. Brovicast, you're smiling, but I feel cold inside." That's the crocodile smile, because you know I'm smiling at you, but it's not a good smile. It's the same idea. So that's what Lawson's doing, because he's smiling at him because he plans on making fun of him later, because Lawson's not a good person. Team captain today. Already that smoldering feeling was growing. Austin had done it again. In 5 minutes, he had put me beneath his $200 running shoes and flattened me like a cigarette butt. "You ain't got a chance against him," said a voice a few feet away from me. Standing there, right next to the bleachers, was Tyson McGaw, who, when it came to being weird, was head and shoulders above the rest. Tyson had stringy, greasy hair, a dirty face, and his left nostril was larger than his right because he spent so much time with his finger in it. Nobody much liked Tyson, and he was definitely not the person I cared to talk to right now. Not after being humiliated by Lost in Space. "Why don't you mind your own business, Tyson?" I said. "People don't like you spying on them." "I wasn't spying," said Tyson, mean and defensively. "Thanks." Like he was looking to get into another one of his famous fights. Tyson was an odd bird. Half the time, he seemed kind of nerdy and off in his own greasy little world. The other half of the time, he was being nasty and picking fights like he was a tough. The last thing I wanted on the first morning of school was to fight Tyson. Okay, it's not that I couldn't beat him up. I could. He's kind of weak and scrawny. It's just that, well, he doesn't really fight like a human. He fights more like an animal, kicking and clawing and biting. Well, spying or not, whatever you want to call it, don't do it anymore. At least not to me, because I don't like it. I got down from the bleachers and began to walk toward the school building. "You really don't stand a chance," mumbled Tyson as I passed him. "How would you know?" I yelled into his face. Now I was mad. "You're not on the team. You're not on any team. All you do is watch everybody else's business, and you stick your nose in it. Don't you have any business of your own? What goes on between Austin and me has nothing to do with you. Got that?" Tyson shut up. I don't think he expected me to get that mad. "Just get out of my sight, Tyson. Don't talk to me unless you have something decent to say." I turned and walked toward class. Tyson mumbled something nasty beneath his breath, but I didn't want to push it any further. I ignored him and continued walking. As I got into the building, my anger shifted away from Tyson and back to Austin. What burned me most was that Tyson was probably right. Conceited, arrogant, lost in space, had all the odds in his favor, and I hated Austin all the more for it. I began to imagine how nice it would be if there was a great conspiracy against all the lost in spaces in the world. Do you guys know what foreshadowing is? I've not had a chance to introduce it yet.
Yeah,
Foreshadowing, if you're scared to tell me, are when there are clues in a story that predict what's going to happen later on. It's usually when the author is sort of giving you clues so that you have an idea of what's going to happen later. That little scene we had there was a bit of foreshadowing, when it said, wouldn't it be great if there was a conspiracy against all the lost in spaces in the world? That becomes foreshadowing because he creates a conspiracy against all the lost in spaces that are out there. Now, I want y'all to know right up front, this is no namby-pamby team, said Coach Schuler, as he fidgeted with his whistle. Once you're in, I don't want y'all quitting and joining Little League or a soccer club or something like that. This might not be high school, we might not work out 5 days a week, but anyone who knows me can tell you that I expect hard work. Isn't that right, Jerry? Right, I said, surprised that he'd called me out of everyone else. So, if you don't want to be here, leave now. In the back, 2 7th graders who in one day had already gotten a reputation of being obnoxious stood and went to the door, laughing. As they left, one of them turned and said, "Adios, Commandant." Some 7th graders laughed. No one who knew Coach Schuler laughed. Schuler looked at his clipboard. First of all, boys meet Mondays and Wednesdays, girls meet Tuesdays and Thursdays. Anyone who wants to can practice with both teams. As Schuler spoke, my mind began to wander. I looked around the gym. It smelled new, but didn't look much different than the old gym. You would think that when a gym burns down, a school would build a nice new-looking one. But no, this gym was a carbon copy of the old one. In each corner of the gym, a different team was meeting, and more were meeting outside. It looked like about 40 kids were going out for track. a few more boys than girls, and by next week that number would be cut in half. The coach never cut anybody, but people just lose interest and drop out. Lost in space sat about 10 feet away from me. He sat in the middle of a crew of 7th graders, already setting himself up to be the team hero for all the new kids to look up to. Schuler flipped a page on his clipboard. As you can see, we have a beautiful new gym. And because of last year's fires, the gym's completely off limits when a teacher isn't present. The doors will remain locked. That goes for the auditorium and just about every other unsupervised place. I know you've heard it from all of your teachers. Now you're hearing it from me. He flipped another page. Next, we have something new this year. Something I think you're going to like. A bunch of the local school districts are getting together to have a sort of mini Olympics. And yes, there will be track events. There are various cheers from around the room, including my own. And that's the good news. Bad news is each district enters one team, which means that each school can only have one runner. Various awes from the group. I kept quiet. I'm sure Austin did too. I felt a knot begin to form in my stomach. Now, before we go down and assign you gym lockers, there's one more order of business. The captain, said Martin Bricker, an 8th grader who had a good chance of being captain next year, but was the only one who thought he'd make it this year. That's right, said Schuler. This is for old team members only. Here are pencils and slips of paper. When I say so, I'd like all the old team members to come up and fill out a ballot. All you have to do is put the name of the person who you'd like to be captain this year. Don't we get a campaign? Asked Lawson. No, we don't get a campaign, mimicked Schuler. Y'all know each other. You don't need any presidential debates. There'll be one captain for the boys, one captain for the girls. Boys, you vote for boys. Girls, vote for girls. If you're not sure what you are, ask me, and I'll tell you. Someone lifted Sarah Dozer's hand, and she elbowed him in the ribs. Okay, come on up. Here's a ballot box. Please put the pencils back in the can when you're done. I filled in Martin Bricker's name, figuring it was low class to vote for myself. I certainly wasn't about to vote for Austin. As Austin approached the ballot box, he turned to me and smiled that crocodile smile that screamed, "You loser," from across the room. I smiled that, "We'll see," smile right back at him. When will you have the results? Asked Martin. They'll be posted on the main bulletin board tomorrow by lunch. The group groaned. Come on, it's only one day. Now when I call your name, come up and I'll give you your locker number. Now, pause for a moment. They mentioned the fact that the gymnasium burned down. I think they said the auditorium, and they're going to talk about the cafeteria. They're going to find out that the previous year, fires kept breaking out in the school in different locations, and it kept burning down parts of it. They had to rebuild bits of the school. And the idea of these mysterious fires that keep appearing are going to come back in a little bit. So that's the coach was talking about, the fact that kids now can't just travel anywhere because we don't know who started these fires. That night, Cheryl and I sat in her old treehouse, talking and trying to get my mind off the election. I never remembered the treehouse being so small. I bet it was even too small for Randall to sit in comfortably now. Sometimes I liked growing, but at times like that, I didn't. I remember when I could lie down across the floor of the treehouse. It could fit all three of us, me, Cheryl, Randall, each in our sleeping bags, late at night, telling ghost stories and drinking chocolate shakes, which were still one of my favorite foods in the world. I love those days. Now, I couldn't even sit in it without bending my knees. It almost been a year since I'd been in it. Cheryl only lived down the street, but we never had much of a reason to go up into the treehouse anymore. It was Cheryl who said, "Let's go talk in the treehouse." I said, "Fine," figuring it would cheer me up. Now, an hour later, the twilight was more twi than light, and the early September chill had come rolling in off the ocean. "What else?" said Cheryl. "Keep thinking." "I don't know. I can't think of any more." "Don't you have any imagination?" "No." "Yes, you do." "Okay. I know. I would hang him by his toes, upside down, over a bear trap." Cheryl laughed. "Now you're getting really gross." "Well, you asked for it. Your turn." "Okay. Next time she sings, I would throw roses at her like that guy did for her to put behind her ears, only I would make sure they had lots of thorns on them." I grimaced. "Your turn." "I would set Austin loose in Lion Country Wild Animal Park and see how fast he runs." Next. Ooh, vicious. Let's see. I would fill her little lunchbox thermos with hydrochloric acid. Not fair, I said. I'm sorry, not fair. I said that one at the wedding. Well then, how about a king cobra in her lunchbox? No, wait, I've got one for you, I said. Why don't we get her a nice date with Tyson McGaw? Oh, that's a fate worse than death. We both laughed good and hard, just trying to imagine Rebecca and slimy Tyson McGaw together. What a match. I can't believe we're really this nasty, I said. Yeah, but isn't it fun? Said Cheryl. I guess it was. It was sort of like watching those horror movies. Sure, they're sick and gross and bloody and all that, but everyone still loves them, right? I mean, it's not like we're really doing anything to them. We're not really mean and terrible. It's just a game. Everybody has someone that really irks them. There's nothing wrong with pretending, right? Wait a second. I just had a brainstorm. We'll pay some bozo to pretend to teach Austin to walk on hot coals. And when he finally goes for it, he'll burn off his feet. So much for running. You're awful. Then she stopped laughing and thought for a moment. And then we stopped. Dang it. Didn't get to my next bullshit. Tomorrow, we'll talk again. See you later.